get it back when you say you want it back. And if it's more than that, fine. But we'll make use of those funds.
Hello, we're back at Bordeaux Quay, the scene of our successful launch event last week, and joining us today is John Pontin. John, hello, thank you for your time. Everybody really enjoyed listening to you last week, and the feedback has been extremely positive. For the people that weren't there on the evening, would you mind just telling us a bit about your background and how you helped redevelop Bush House with Manners?
Yes, happily. The main thing is that I was born here in Bristol a long time ago, but within 10 minutes I can walk to the house that I was born in. So this for me has been a playground as a youngster, and I think it's still a playground for me when it comes to changing buildings, adapting buildings like the Bush House, which has been a huge privilege to be associated with, as you can imagine. So 1973, we had been, Tim Morgan and I had started the JT Group just 6 or 7 years before, and so in 1973, we had enough money in the bank to be able to buy that shell of a building, and for Jeremy and Annabelle Rees, who were the really creative geniuses behind the Monopini, could have the lower third of the building, but we then had to find a use for the upper 2/3, which we managed to get a mixed-use planning consent for 40,000 feet of offices above, and that became our studio. It was a working harbour until 1972. All these buildings were pretty scruffy, were not used at all, right through to where the watershed is now, and no boats, no anything, but it was just pretty derelict. And what was astonishing in those times was that the late 60s, early 70s, the city engineer had a crazy idea of taking an extension to the Grove, the other side of Arnolfini, and lifting it and oversailing this St Augustine's Reach by knocking down a third or a half of Bush House and some other buildings along the side. And you will remember that this was just a car park, it was just engine sheds and all very scruffy. And of course we had the tobacco bombs there as well at some stage.
I remember it well. In fact, when I was about 17 or 18, I used to work on the centre and we parked our cars down here.
Yes, exactly.
And quite often you come back and your cars are broken into as well.
So a before photograph would have been completely different to this. So it was wonderful. There wasn't much that we could do which was going to be criticised once we'd stopped the road. The road needed to be stopped, and that was by a group of very passionate architects who said the only way to stop this is to get the Arnolfini and some of the other buildings listed. We employed a team of stonemason to clean down, and the transformation from a dirty, scruffy building into a beautiful building, all the colours of the pennant stone coming out. And one of the most extraordinary things for me is to see the sun, the morning sun coming up, the western sun coming onto that elevation, and for it to be just magical, absolutely magical. The local authority, city council, said, well, let's have some developers come in and tell us what we should do with E shed, W shed, U shed, and now this B shed here. But we had somebody called Tony Byrne who came up with the idea of a media centre, and he was Mr. Genius as we saw that, and he spent quite a lot of creative juices in creating what is a uniquely interesting
which is the watershed as we know it today.
Oh yes, yeah.
And now with Bordeaux Quay, which is today's venue that we talked about. So what's your involvement with Bordeaux Quay?
Bordeaux Quay, it was marvellous because we had to find tenants for the buildings that we renovated, and one of the tenants, a rather difficult business, we didn't know it at the time we signed the lease with them, came in and they occupied what in effect are the 2 floors here at Bordeaux Quay. After 3 to 4 years of difficult trading, they were right at the lower end of the business. They fortunately went out of business, passed the lease back. We scratched our heads, what do we do with it now? And within a week of boarding it up, someone said to me, I've got a restaurant in Market Road, Barney Holton, Rock and Antis, I think it is now, or was then. I'd love to find larger premises in the central Bristol. And it dawned on me that we had just larger premises here. So arranged to meet Barney, opened up the building with torches and an awful smell of beery carpets. And I could only stand it for 10 minutes before I had to say, Barney, I'm off, I must get out of here. He said, can I keep walking through? I'll come and join you shortly. 20 minutes later he came out, and I thought he was going to run a mile from me. And I said, what do you think? He said, well, I think we can make something of this, and I'll write up a proposal and we'll talk. That was amazing, because I had the money, he had the vision, if you like, and between the two of us, Bordeaux Quay, as she is now, is what came out of Barney's creativity and funds from me, I guess, at the time, and for that to be fortuitous. This is the centre of the universe for me. I love the office, the cafe atmosphere, so you will see me at the bottom of the stairs downstairs, 6 days a week, more or less. 8 in the morning I try to get here, and for 5-6 hours I work through the business of the day, and then I end up with a glass of wine or something at the end of the day, and that's me completely satiated in terms of what my waking moments should be. This is the most wonderful place for weddings, as you say, functions, parties, lectures, as your function the other evening was a treat. 70, 80 people, it can take 100 people. It is a wonderful, but it's so inspiring to look out the window, and it's almost like you can imagine you're in the south of France or something.
Or when the sunshine, perhaps.
But even without the sunshine, the boats are wonderful.
It's magnificent.
And the good thing is, this is going to look like this in 100 years' time. There is no reason why any of this here should change. No one. There might be robots cleaning up the roads and all that sort of stuff, but this will feel, just as it is now, complete and rather special.
Do you think that's something like a lasting legacy for you?
Well, I've been lucky to be part of it, but as a Bristol boy and as my playground, it's shaped well. Yeah.
So sort of moving on to sort of present day and what your passion is now. You mentioned on the evening about the Converging World, which is a charity that you helped establish.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit more about that, if you don't mind.
It started by me proposing to my village at Chumag, I live in Chumag now, and in 2004 I challenged the village to see what moving towards a zero waste village could be. So a dozen of us got together and moved on this cafe. Let's go for a zero waste village. We didn't know what it meant, but a dozen people around the table were sufficiently motivated to say, well, let's have a go. And we've come up with a very simple model that suggests that it's not money that's needed, it is simply the will to set about and say, with our grandchildren, what do we elders, what do we sentient beings think we should do in order to make the world a better place rather than slowly degrading as it has done over my several decades. Twice as many butterflies, twice as many wildflowers, all these sort of. So the idea for the Converging World is to say, if we restore nature, where it's the richest place and the lowest cost place to do it, that's India, or in the tropics, anywhere around the tropical forest belt of the globe. We found Southeast India. So the very simple idea is the industrialised West, and Bristol started a lot with the fossil fuel driven investments 300 years ago. Wouldn't it be brilliant if we come up with a model that switches 180 degrees and we start going back to a pre-industrial level of carbon in the atmosphere? Take 30 to 40 years to do it, but it needn't be costly, but it can be done because we, with our grandchildren, they're loved, they're vulnerable, they're all these sorts of things. We don't have to give them less than they had when they were born.
So how does that actually work? I understand it's involving wind turbines in Tamil Nadu, is that right?
The idea, very simply, is that if we invest in green technology in India, where it's very dirty carbon generated from the national grid there. We can take an investment in the turbines. We've got 8 turbines turning. We've got £1.5 million worth of sterling sales. If we had debt-free turbines, we would have free wind blowing across debt-free turbines. The funds flowing from selling the electricity to hospitals and businesses would then be available to plant, not all of it, but plant forests. So the forest would be free. Free wind, free turbines, free forest. And what we have found through a research project conducted by the University of the West of England at our request, they've said that if we let a lot of the cash flow from the turbines recreate forests in the traditional agenda in India, it is astonishingly simple to take a ton of CO2 sequestered. A tree is practically pure carbon. As it's growing, it will take the carbon out from the atmosphere, leave the oxygen behind, which is what we need. It's exactly what we need to balance off.
And also, I understand it helps rebuild the community in India and help sustain the local environment.
That's the wonderful thing, because practically all the money that's needed to create the forest, apart from the seeds, it goes into the women planting the seeds to grow the small plants. The men go out and dig the holes where they're told to do it and told where to plant the trees, water them and sustain them. So practically nearly 100% goes into the lowest economic cohort there, the landless rural families who are lucky to get to casual wage labour, sometimes £2 a day they'll get if they're lucky. We pay them 50% over the rate, and we're trying to create sustainable livelihoods. Wouldn't it be marvellous? 280 days a year of £3 a day for a fully grown adult.
And how about someone that might say, well, why don't we just run a wind turbine on a hill in the West Country and plant some trees here? Why don't we do that here?
We can do that. We can do that. The funds are more. It's more expensive to do it here, and equally because our grid is that much cleaner. Only half the carbon is emitted here. So you get twice as much carbon saved by generating electricity through solar or wind in India, without spending another penny.
Oh, I see.
So it is simply it's twice as clean, if you like.
And how about the trees that you plant in India compared to, say, in the UK? Are they
again, they'll be a tenth of the cost.
Just before we finish our interview for today, would you mind just talking us through the concept of a zero bond?
No, this is I'm even more passionate about the idea of the zero bond, because the concept is quite simple. If we could get each and every one of us with money, you don't have to have a lot, and sometimes you might be a billionaire. If we could take a fraction, like 0.5% of the free cash we've got, and lend that into a fund which would have no interest attached to it. You just simply say, I can park this 0.5% of my money in this fund, and the fund will then have what in effect is no interest to pay. But if we have funds in there long enough, we will be able to take that money out, invest in turbines, invest in solar, turn that into cash flow, and we will start to make zero cost money into highly valuable money, and the money that comes from the investments that we have will be used to grow more turbines, more solar, more forests. So there's a productivity that comes from zero money, which I regard as the 8th wonder of the world potentially, because can you imagine zero interest money can turn for the advantage of the community into an extraordinary pot of gold, really.
I like the concept because instead of it being a donation to someone, it's an investment or a handout.
Exactly. We're allowing some money that is parked somewhere quietly, not earning very much these days, into being more active, into being carbon focused, into being growing energy assets and renewable energy assets, and the whole of it, making money active. There's so much money in the world that's passive, that's just left there, making more money, but not doing